Thanks so much, Meredith. And yeah, I'm super stoked to be here. So thanks so much to everybody who's in the room today. I know there's loads of absolutely awesome sessions happening across the conference. So really happy that you're with me here and for folks that are joining online. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you all being here. So as Meredith kindly introduced me a moment ago, my name is Beck Pitt, and I'm here on behalf of my wonderful colleagues, Farrow and Carina Bossu, and I'm here to talk about a decade of the Global OER Graduate Network, or GoGN, and talk about where next. We've had a fantastic decade of activity. What are we planning kind of going forward? So that's going to be the focus of today's session. But before we get started, I just wanted to get a sense of in the room, whether and online as well, as to familiarity with GoGN. So if people are happy to do so, hands in the air if you've heard of GoGN. Okay, and thumbs up in the online as well. If you're able to give me a bit of a thumbs up, that would be cool. We'll see. There was lots of hands up in the room, which is awesome. I can see a few of our GoGN members as well, which is great. Perfect. I can see some thumbs up, but that's also great because what we're going to do today is also talk a little bit about what GoGN is. So if you're not familiar with the network, don't worry, we've got you covered. We're going to then talk a bit about how the network's changed over the past decade in terms of the growth of the membership, the kind of research that folks are doing, where folks are coming from, and then also kind of update you, give you some updates around how we've been working across and working with our membership, both in terms of open research and publications, in terms of our kind of new research sprint activity that's been happening in 2024, and then also our equity, diversity and inclusion EDI work as well. And then finally, going to round it all up with looking at our future strategic insights and directions. And this is coming directly from our membership and the work that we conducted last year to better understand how we can serve our diverse membership better kind of going forward and really build out from the work that we've been doing over the past few years. And then finally, it's a big kind of ask of you all as well. Although we primarily serve doctoral researchers working in open education around the world, we also have a wider, as I'll explain shortly, community of practice with supervisors, practitioners, anyone interested in open education. You're welcome to join GoGN as well, and we would love to have you as part of the network. So yeah, I'll kind of return to that at the end as well, and also give a shout out to some of our wonderful GoGNers that are presenting at the conference, and you may have already been in their sessions. So let's get started with what is GoGN. As I mentioned a moment ago, we support doctoral researchers working in the open education space. We do that in a number of different ways. We do that through face-to-face workshops, and you can see an exciting picture here of some of our wonderful members at a workshop that we had prior to OE Global last year in Edmonton. We brought together, it was our biggest workshop so far, 30 of our wonderful alumni and members all in one space, working together over 2 days to share more about their research, to kind of talk about where we're going as a network and collaborate together. So it really was wonderful. So one of the things that we're doing, and we do regularly, is a kind of face-to-face workshops, international conferences, we have awards, we have a scholarship program currently, we have regular online events, and as I'll go on and talk about shortly, we also collaboratively produce openly licensed publications that support research. And yeah, I'll explain a little bit more about that. This also feeds in, and part of our kind of role is amplifying open education research and amplifying the voices and people that are in the network, really raising the profile of research into open education. We do that through in a number of different ways. I mentioned some of them. The scholarship scheme. We previously had a fellowship scheme for our alumni, for people that had finished their doctorate, to kind of support their work after they finished. But we also support participation in international conferences, and we have things like our member research specials. So we have monthly webinars. Since the pandemic, we kind of introduced this, our kind of more of a community of care kind of model. Obviously, that's always been part of what we've done as a network, but you know, we introduced these kind of member research specials to really allow members to share and showcase their research and the work that they're doing. And we have those several times a year. We're also kind of focused on developing openness as a process of research, and we do that, and I'll explain more shortly, through collaborative publications and sprints, and through acknowledging the work of our membership through our awards and our scholarship scheme. And then last but definitely not least is the promotion of equity, diversity and inclusion in the field of open education research. And this has always been really central to GoGN's kind of mission. And it's now a kind of core aspect of the work that we do. So we're very lucky to be supported by the Hewlett Foundation in our work. And back in 2018 and 2020, we had 2 additional grants to kind of explore to focus on really understanding the needs of the open education community and doctoral researchers in Africa and Latin America. That's now kind of become a core part of our work. We're kind of doing work and building on that and working at the moment around better understandings of our membership in Asia and the kind of Pacific regions as well. I'll kind of talk a bit more, I'm jumping ahead slightly, I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but really it is about the constant kind of engagement with our membership to better understand how we can serve them better. So I just wanted to share a couple of quotations. We regularly survey our members to get feedback about the work we're doing. We have our annual survey, and this is from our strategic review here, where one of our members is talking about how, I won't read the full quote out here, but about those kind of, I wanted to pick up particularly on the building bridges and connections kind of aspect of that. Obviously, we're a network, and quite often doctoral researchers are maybe the only person in their institution working kind of in this space. So GoGN has the role of, our role is really to connect up people around the world working on open education as part of their doctoral research. And you can see here someone talks about that kind of building bridges and connections, bringing people together, which, as you heard earlier, is a really key part of what we do. Oops, jumping ahead there slightly. So just as well to pick up here 2 kind of pieces of feedback we had about the workshop that I mentioned a moment ago. So this was prior to OE Global, our 2-day workshop. And just to kind of pick up here around the diversity, someone's talking here around the diversity of presenters and their topics and the inclusive atmosphere of the event itself here. I also wanted to point out, I've kind of highlighted these bits in red, about the kind of boosting people's confidence as a researcher, within, the amplifying our membership and alumni and the work that they're doing, kind of building that confidence and kind of connecting people is really core to what we're doing. So when we have wonderful feedback like this, it's really very heartwarming, and I wanted to share that as an example of that. And you can find, if you're thinking, if you want to see more of feedback, in our annual reviews, which we published over the last 4 years, we also publish our survey results and share some more of those kind of feedback that we receive from the network. So as I mentioned, I'm one of several members that make up the GoGN team. There's myself and Rob and Carina as well, and then also Kylie and Hannah, who deal with all of the logistics and the behind the scenes and keep us on track as well. And yeah, I'll refer to different bits of the team, different members of the team, sorry, and the work that they do as we move forward as well here. Perfect. So just to take a little pause and reflect as well now on the network itself and give some insights into how that's changed over the past 10 years. As I mentioned, obviously, it's been 10 years of GoGN, and the network started off at the OU in the Netherlands before it kind of came to us and has been managed by the Open University in the UK since around 2016, 15 kind of time. And we had 52 members and alumni back then, so a kind of small, fantastic group of folks working on open education topics as part of their doctorate. We currently have 185 members and alumni, and I'll kind of show that trajectory in a moment, and we'll have a kind of look at some of the things that people are kind of researching on to give a bit of snapshot about that. But our membership is based at 29 countries around the world. Obviously, over time, wonderfully, lots of people graduate from and finish their PhDs, and we have around a third of the 185 folks I mentioned are alumni. Just under 30% of our membership are based in the Global South. And then also, as I mentioned at the start, we have this wider community of practice as well. So, if you're a supervisor, if you're engaged in the open education space in any way at all, we would love to have you as part of GoGN. And we do have a very wide friends and experts network. So as I mentioned, and as you can see here as well, you can see that we've got a larger, the kind of growth of the network since June 2015 through to June 23 here. So we've got a larger and more diverse kind of network, which is super exciting for us. It's amazing, for people to reach out, to kind of join the network and become part of what we do. But there's also a kind of question of how can we scale the personalized community of care model that we have to make sure that we're really serving our membership appropriately and giving people that kind of personal approach that was obviously really important as well from the outset. Over this time as well, GoGN's developed a really strong community profile over the last 10 years. So you can see here, I apologize, it might be slightly too small, but you can see here that the network makes a significant contribution to research on open education. We've obviously got around 200, almost 200 researchers, and we've got recorded more than 30,000 citations of our member and alumni work, with a third of these coming since 2022. So you can see that here we have a GoGN research profile on Google Scholar. So you can really see the kind of immense amount of research that's being produced by members and alumni of the network. And we have some really wonderful, very prolific authors as well that are part of that. We're also obviously very much about international research on open education. There's the wonderful open education group as well. I know that I want to give a shout out to the work of Virginia Clinton Lissell and colleagues here in North America as well, doing absolutely fantastic work. Obviously, we're an international network as well. So if you're at all interested in what's happening kind of outside of in different contexts around the world, different understandings of openness and the kind of things that people are up to, then please, this GoGN is hopefully a network that might be of interest to you in being involved. And, the events that we have, our monthly events, they're open to anyone. Come along, join in, be part of what we're doing. We would love to see you there. I'm just going to briefly touch on, I'm conscious of time and we've still got quite a lot to cover, but I just wanted to give a flavor of, I guess, the kind of changing trajectory of open education research over the decade that GoGN's been around, but then also give some insights into what our membership are working on as well. This is some work done by our wonderful former director, Martin Weller, former director of GoGN, and the work that Martin did back in 2016, actually, around the OER Knowledge Cloud, which currently has over 2,800 entries and contributions of research on open education. But back in 2007, as you can see here, there were 26 items that were on the OER Knowledge Cloud. This kind of rose and the kind of subjects and things, this analysis kind of shows the categorization of those resources and the research that's been done. As you can see, it starts to change. In 2015, you've got a kind of rise, particularly in MOOCs and the kind of research that's coming out and the kind of interest in MOOCs that obviously is coming through there. A similar analysis was conducted of our GoGN member research. This is back in 2022. Obviously, we've got a much bigger network growth since then, so we need to kind of go back and kind of look into this in more depth, but hopefully this will give a little bit of an idea of the type of research and the kind of change in that over the 2016 and 2017 period through to 2022. So Bea de los Arcos as well, so a shout out to Bea, who's now at TU Delft and who was part of the team and did the kind of analysis and categorization of member research here. And then to myself, thank you for the work in 2022. But basically, in brief, and thank you for the time indication as well. Just to briefly say that, you're really seeing some changes here, both in terms of the focus and the kind of building up of research in open education, from things about efficacy through to understanding and openness, social justice, kind of more practitioner, collaborative research as well. So you can kind of we've got another in-depth paper around a presentation as well on this, so I can share that if people are interested in that. But I want to move on to the updates and as well here, because I'm conscious of time. So really, first of all, for open research, I wanted to share here some of the work that our membership have done and the collaboration that we've done over the past few years to produce these openly licensed resources that are open to anybody, of course, to come and make use of. And our open research handbook here combines our conceptual frameworks guide and our research methods handbook, along with other open resources into one kind of place. We also have our annual reviews as well. So this is our kind of reporting back and accountability to the network with what we're doing. And then our research reviews that we had for a couple of years, and they've been combined as well into that open research handbook. So yeah, please do check those out if they're of interest to you. We also have our research sprints as well, which I mentioned at the start are a kind of new activity for the network. So kind of experimental open research practice for us, time-bound collaborative work with our membership around specific topics. We had a sprint earlier in the year around AI and open education, and this was a kind of series of discussions with our membership around that topic, kind of now looking forward and thinking about ways to take that forward with our membership. We also have Helen DeWard and her scholarship work around internationalization at a distance. That's kind of currently being worked into a journal publication. And then finally, many of our members and wider community contributed to the GoGN Supervisor Guide as well. And that's the kind of sharing of experiences of both supervisors and doctoral students. And we've kind of put that into one volume. We've got a webinar happening. This is at the end of this month as well, which you're very welcome to join on the 30th of October. And we'll be telling you more and launching that guide as well. You know, and it's something that's not often shared. So in the space, there's not a lot of publications about people's experience. So yeah, we're really looking forward to sharing that with you. Just very briefly as well to highlight the EDI guidelines here as well. We're very honoured to be shortlisted for one of the OE Global Awards this year in the EDI category. As I mentioned, work focused, we're kind of focusing on particularly our Asia and Pacific membership at the moment to better understand how we can serve people there. And you can read more about our findings from the work that's been carried out earlier in the EDI guidelines here. Conscious of time, but I'm going to move very briefly to just give you some insights, hopefully, into our strategic direction going forward as well. And these ideas are coming from our membership and the conversations that we've had over a year, over 2023. So yeah, first of all, around supporting collaboration and really, you know, building on what we've already been doing as a network to kind of further promote that collaboration and opportunities for different kinds of collaboration within the network. You know, we've had ideas about creating groups of interest, you know, people working together, sharing of research data and so forth to kind of expedite collaboration and mutual understanding. So there's lots of ideas kind of around this and how we can do that going forward. We're also really thinking about how, you know, as research into open education matures and there's a growing body of research into the impact of open education, how can we add value as a network as well? This is a question for us. And we're exploring potentially, for example, a special issue of GoGN publications once a year to really showcase, you know, people's what's happening in the network, the research that people are doing, you know, giving people the experience of being involved in the process of a special issue in a journal, and then also that opportunity for more experimental, shorter pieces potentially, and etc. So that's one of the options going forward. I mentioned our kind of additional services is also something that's been brought up by membership. I mentioned that a moment ago, but also like maybe people working together on grant developments, on workshops around conference themes or funding calls. So there's more ideas coming from our membership about how we can do that going forward. And of course, we're going to be looking as well to, this is ongoing and continual as well, I think is really important. And this came out if you were in the Rebus session as well, this was mentioned as well, is that this commitment to EDI is really ongoing and continual. Thank you. work for us to be doing. So we've got this workshop prior to Brisbane. One day of that is going to be dedicated to furthering our EDI work there. But we're also kind of looking at how we can directly empower our membership. And one idea that was very positively that a number of people in the network have kind of come forward and expressed an interest around is regional hubs. You know, having kind of a kind of federated or decentralized kind of model going forward, which allows our membership to really have more control and really empowers people in different regions and deepen our support as well for alumni in those spaces, and also enable the wider community to become involved. So that's something that we're kind of really looking at the moment. So really it's about unlocking the further potential of GoGN and kind of balancing that so that we're really supporting our network going forward and in the ways that they feel most appropriate and so forth. So yeah, just to kind of end on, I'm really conscious of time. A kind of shout out here, firstly to our wonderful GoGNers who there are a number of folks at the conference. On the QR code here, you can check out the presentations and the sessions from our membership. So please do come and check out some of the wonderful work people are doing. And then also, as I mentioned, the network is open to anyone to join. We would love you to be part of GoGN if you're a doctoral researcher, or if you're just interested in finding out what's going on and what we're up to, we would love to hear from you. So yeah, please do reach out, and thank you so much for your attention today. Thank you.
I think we have just 3 minutes for any questions in the room. Also, I don't know if there's any questions online. We'll take a look. Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Michael Kahn from Bronx Community College. When I came in with the understanding that this was focused for graduate students, but I think you said that it's open to additional people. I'm a librarian with a second master's degree. I'm not a graduate student. I was wondering if there's a place for me to have involvement.
We would love to have you as part of GoGN. Yeah, definitely. It would be fantastic. I think we obviously, you know, we're our prime, like things like our workshops and things like this and the kind of funded opportunities and stuff, you know, we really kind of focused on serving doctoral research working open GK, but the wider community, we would love to kind of have you as part of that. And, you know, there's opportunities to get involved in the collaborative publications and the things that we were talking about earlier, the sprint activity, you know, all of this, we would love to have your perspectives and voice as part of that and be part of the network. So yeah, that would be wonderful. So yeah, thank you.
Any questions from online? Well, thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. And thanks to everyone for your attention and for joining the session online and face to face. Thank you.
Hello. And are you Frank and OER?
Yep.
Great.